Let's define a function. A function is a relation or a formula, if you will, or a graph or a table that assigns to each element x from a set of inputs exactly one element y in a set of outputs. The set of inputs for a function is called the domain, and the set of outputs is called the range. In the figure before you, you see an expression of inputs and outputs in the form of a table. And the question says, decide whether the relation represented by the table expresses y as a function of x. When we read the words y as a function of x, this automatically means that y is considered to be the output and x is considered to be the input. So let's look at the problem in this way. If I have in my table the same input being sent to different outputs, then I am violating the definition of a function. And as you see in this figure, the input x equals 1 is sent to two different outputs. So in this particular case, x equals 1 is associated with y equals -2 and y equals 2. So y is not a function of x in this case. If instead of a table I have a graph and I want to determine whether or not the curve is a graph of a function of x, then first I see that x must be on the x-axis, y on the y-axis. That means x is considered the input and y is considered the output. Okay, so if you are a graph of a function, then each input x would have to be associated with one and only one output y. You can see in the first graph that it violates this principle. Notice if I draw a vertical line through the graph, there's definitely at least one x value that produces two different y values. So here, y is not a function of x. This is often referred to as the vertical line test. In the second graph, graph B, if you pass a vertical line through the entire graph, you see that it only ever touches the graph once. So this is y is a function of x, because it passes the vertical line test. And in a similar manner, graph C, which looks like a rectangular box, fails the vertical line test, which I'll abbreviate as VLT. Graph D passes the vertical line test. So again, if your graph fails the vertical line test, it's not the graph of a function. If it passes the vertical line test, it is the graph of a function.